one day somebody does something unspeakable to someone else, to someone you hardly knew, and you do something about it because you can.
This story is brought to us from the Washington Post. That's right. Where Jessica Contreras was reporting on a child sex trafficking in 2021 when she started to notice the headlines. They appeared in her inbox a few times a month, the product of Google Alerts. You can get the news. She had set to be notified of stories regarding kids, abuse, and the criminal justice system. Now, she was accustomed to seeing the stories in which law enforcement officers were mentioned because they were investigating child sex abuse. But in these articles, she noticed the officers were the abusers. They give you some of the headlines here. Former Louisville police officer sentenced for sexually assaulting a child. Ex-Chicago cop sentenced to 25 years in sex trafficking of young girls. Sex abuse victim of former LVMPD officer. I was turned into a human pet. Those are some of the headlines that she mentions. Now, they frequently called the officers former officers. They always say that. The former officer. Was he a former officer at the time? But they were former officers only because they resigned or had been fired after being accused. Many of them had used their jobs to find their victims, cops, school teachers, you know what I mean? Who were almost described as young, vulnerable teenage girls. Now, she had no idea just how often this was happening. To find out, she teamed up with investigative reporter Jen Abelson and data reporter John D. Harden. The Washington Post has spent more than a year examining police officers accused of sexually abusing children and discovered that, on average, a law enforcement has been charged with a crime involving child sex abuse twice a week, every week, for 18 years. Did you hear me? A law enforcement officer has been charged with a crime involving child sex abuse twice a week, every week, for 18 years. And that's in the United States. Now, I get it that this happens on all walks of life. I get it that child sex abuse crime doesn't have an occupation for a face. In other words, cop, school teacher, janitor, uh, trash man, bank accountant, I don't know, whatever. I get it. You see what I'm saying? But when it is a police officer, it's really, really kind of scary. Because that's almost like having a fox in the hen house. I guess what I'm trying to say is we have this perimeter of security that's secured by law enforcement, whether it's your city or your county or your parish or whatever. You have that, that municipality, and it's protected by these law enforcement officers. But when they're in the perimeter, so to speak, when they're the criminals, what do you do when the cop is the criminal? So that's what makes this so, you know, um, so frightening, is that it's the ones we trust to protect us. I digress. I really do. But knowing that police officers are sexually abusing kids was just the first step. We wanted to understand how these crimes happen and who's being hurt by them, how officers are investigated, and what consequences they face. What's being done to stop predators with badges, and perhaps most importantly, what isn't being done. That's the real question. Now it goes down from here. This is quite a lengthy story. I'll put a link to this story in the description box. You can click that link. You can read it. Oh my God, it is really long. It's still going down. But it's a really long story. But the bottom line and the gist here is they investigated and they found that these sexual crimes against these children, particularly young, vulnerable teenage girls, is happening by police officers every week for 18 years. That's crazy. And yet, when I was recording cops on scene of a crime here in Yucaipa, I had a corporal that had the audacity to tell me there was a kid in his underwear over here. So you filming that would be child pornography.
Hey, Jimmy.
Hey,
Question. Okay, so we're currently dealing with a kid who's like 6 years old, mentally disturbed, and he's naked from the waist down. Do you think that's something you want to be recording?
how do you know I'm recording him?
Jimmy, I'm just asking a question, bro.
I'm just asking you.
I'm just letting you know that that's what's going on. Okay?
Right.
So that would be child pornography, right?
No, it would not.
So don't have that.
Don't
okay?
you come and give me directions, Sergeant. Get your ass back over there and do your job, Sergeant. Go. Let's go.
You have a great day.
Keep walking. Don't come over here and try to tell me what to do. I'm not breaking the law. So don't come over here and create a crime. You understand me?
Well, I'm not filming the child. I'm filming your police cars and you two cops over here talking. I don't care about the kid in his he can be in his underwear. I don't care. I have grandkids. I'm not filming him. But he had the audacity to say that. When this report from the Washington Post has found that twice a week, every week for 18 years, cops are involved in that.